We now are fortunate enough to have Kim Tempest with us. Kim Tempest is a numerologist and biofeedback practitioner with 25 years of experience in the field of complementary medicine, working with bioenergetics, reflexology, energy healing, and practical numerology. Kim runs a private practice in Cape Town for those seeking transformation and change. Welcome, Kim. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. Thanks, Mark.
Kim, how did you get involved in numerology?
It's been quite a journey. I would say a journey over about 11 or 12 years now,
Yeah.
where I'd been a practitioner in the field of nutrition and complementary medicine and found that I needed extra tools in my kit for assisting the individual with their particular journey in time that they were stuck with. So the biofeedback offered a lot from the point of view of energy systems and organs and the inner world of the person, but the much closer connection to the calling of the soul and the problems with disconnection from the soul and much more of a higher self connection is where I found an interest in helping the person or assisting the person in understanding themselves first. And obviously through my own personal journeys in some of the similar modalities of astrology, numerology became my favorite. I seem to just have an affinity for understanding the numbers versus the complications of the planets. And they began to speak to me like, like a pianist would sight read music. I just sort of started to understand that these foundations in numbers actually had meaning and that a lot of what we were missing in ourselves actually had little codes that we could extract from numerology. And often the transformational place happens in the person when they see themselves in a different light or hear what they are not hearing within themselves, which is the voice of the spirit, with the voice of the soul calling to them.
So how does numerology actually work then? Can you give us sort of like just a basic understanding?
So the foundation of numerology from the point of view of the individual comes from the birth chart, which is your date of birth, and the birth name, which is the signature, the actual letters that are inscribed on your birth certificate. And we extract all information from those two charts. The birth chart is typically what we call the life path number, that number that expresses the journey of your life. And then the much more detailed energy that's woven into the birth name gives a lot more detail of the inner self, the challenges, the journeys along the way, and particularly major positions of the soul's urge, which is a lot of my work is connected to that soul energy pattern, that thing that you are really called here to do, that deep inspiration that wakes you up in the morning, that if I'm not doing this, I actually feel like I'm dying.
So how did that help you with your life?
I think for the longest time, being a Capricorn sun sign myself, I was always convinced that I needed degrees and certificates in the corporate world. And yet there was something else that always seemed to snatch me away from that and pull me into another direction. And things that were meant to happen according to the book, never happened for me. And I was puzzled by this. And then I just got used to following my intuition. I developed a very, very strong intuition for what felt right at a very early age, and realized when I did numerology that it came from a soul urge number 11. So where a life path 11 experience is the same or similar, they experienced it in real time. I experienced it perhaps at the level of very deep inner soul calling, where intuition guides me. Now, it doesn't matter what happens in my life. I just know that I know that I know that that intuition is actually my guiding rod. So that's how it's affected my life and my career and my journey through the multiple things that I've engaged with over the time that I've practiced. Yes.
How does an individual's numbers relate to the year?
Very interesting question. I'll just give you a picture of what I've experienced. We've been in a global year, 2020, which is actually, I also use the zero. I believe in using the zero. It is powerful. It represents the impact of spirit. We've entered into a period of time where from the year 2000, we've had an influx of the understanding of the spiritual growth of this planet, of the spiritual understanding of our spiritual natures. It's been amplified by the three Seraph, or the three zeros. In 2020, we re-inherited the two, because for a while now, we've just had 1 0 in the 2019. We clicked back into the double impact of the zero. Basically, the 40 in the number 2020 is a foundational number. It's the re-establishing of law and order in perhaps an era of chaos. And for me personally, I've transited through a personal year 5, which has been fraught with changes and chaos and the unexpected inside this year that's been rather restrictive. So that the number 5 in my own personal year kind of said, don't fence me in, don't fence me in, don't fence me in, let me expand, let me create, let me go do what I want, go out. And the 4 of the 2020 said, sorry, you got to stay at home. So it was enormously taxing on what I felt my natural expression was for this year. So other people may have experienced a similar thing. For people who were in a personal year 4 with an existing 4 boundary around them in 2020, it was a lot easier because they almost had a natural energy supporting them in the area of laying new foundations, establishing new work, structures, boundaries, budgets, etc. It's almost fitted like a glove. So that's how we can assess how the individual and the numerology of the year interact with each other. It's quite simple if you understand the numbers.
Yeah. So how do you work out your personal number or your personal year?
So yeah, your personal year, what you would actually do is you would take the date you were born. I'm born on the 18th of January, making it a 19. And then I would add that to, let's just keep it simple, to the number 4. So the 9 and the 1 is a 10. And then the 4 added to the 10 is quite easy to work out. It's 14. If I add the 1 and the 4, it becomes a 5. That's your personal year number. So in 2020, which was the number 4 represented, and the date and the month, the day and the month number added together gave me the personal year 5, but inside the year 2020, which is a 4.
Okay.
Yeah.
Were there any other significant numbers around the year 2020 that kind of reflect the year that it's been?
I think we constantly heard ourselves saying, I think the power of words was really significant for me in this year, because the 4 has to do with manifestation and the 2 loves to speak. The 20 in itself, we kept on hearing ourselves saying 2020, oh my gosh, you know, this will go down in the history of the worst years ever. But actually what I found is people were suddenly talking a lot more. There was just this wave of communication that just was evolving, and we were hearing all kinds of data is another word that comes up when I see the number 2. The funny thing about when I sat preparing what I needed to say tonight, I went back to my tarot deck as well, and I just said, okay, give me something to kind of understand this 2020 without being too numerologically inclined. And I got the number of judgment, the card judgment, which in fact is the number 20 on the tarot deck of the major arcana. And for me, it just reflected the card of cause and effect. Yeah. It is the simple, what is done here will have an effect there, and this is what the consequence is. And I feel strongly that 2021 is saying to us now, because of the understanding of that law of cause and effect, you are now going to potentially step into the new world, which is then the 21st card of the tarot, the major arcana in the tarot deck, which says the world is your oyster, but now take what you've learned from the past and do things differently, perhaps. Do things, the 21 in numerology by a very good writer that I follow, a very good teacher that I follow, represents the number 21 represents cosmic consciousness. That we must work with the understanding of higher consciousness going forward. And actually, the 20s represent the talking and the sharing and the teaching to others who need a raising up of consciousness to continue that work. So 2021 will continue the work of 2020. It's like now a loop that continues right into 2030 and beyond. Something we can't get away from now. And you can see it on media, on these digital platforms that are just sharing all kinds of information. Be careful of the information you swallow. It's very important.
Yeah. So the number 20 is about sharing and communication, and then 21 you said cosmic consciousness.
Cosmic consciousness is one of the significant messages. It has also got to do with greater networks. yes, everything, as I was sitting listening to Margarita, everything she was saying about the changes in how we're doing things, currencies, Bitcoin, B is the second letter of the alphabet. So wherever I look, I see numbers and I figure out, gosh, that's there, that's there. It's all significantly woven into the numerology. There's just such a lot of detail.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are there any other important numbers in the year ahead?
I think 5 is the most important number to really get the full meaning of 2021. And if I can describe what I would suggest as being the energy or the navigation codes to go forward in understanding 2021, the 2 is about others, and the 1 is about the self. And to me, the navigation code for a 5-year, with the preceding numbers being 2021, would be others, and then spirit represented in the 0, others again represented again in the 2, and then the self represented in the 1. And then together, it's a continuous and changing environment, because the 5 is constantly representing change and disruption and upheaval and more change. So the more plans you make, the more something else around it starts to change and you have to re-strategize. So it's good to go in with a plan for 2021. It's good to have a concrete budget. It's very good to still have a handle on your life with good foundations, because ultimately that foundation will have a better chance of survival in the changing environment. But the navigation code should be others, spirits, others, the self in the changing environment. Okay. Because when we do that, we're going to raise up stronger communities, stronger individuals, and raise the vibration on the planet.
Yeah. So with 2020 being a 4 number, did you say the 4 is about structure?
A lot of structure and reworking something that seems to have much more spiritual meaning behind it.
Yeah. Finding
the true meaning. I think what I've recognized in a lot of my clients is this year there's been a major spiritual depression as well. 2 can, unfortunately, every number has a negative and a destructive energy that can, by choice, default into that. And depression is one of those that we see in the number 2, especially with the double impact of the 2, and getting stuck in depression, which is the 4. And we've had to rework that, assisting clients in seeing what is a different way forward. How can you restructure your life so that you can uplift yourself and move with the change? And that's a lot of that energy in the 4.
Okay. So we're moving into a 5-year then, which is all about change. And that might seem daunting to a lot of people.
Yeah.
What is the negative side of number 5?
Being reckless, I'd say, is a big warning. We're going to find next year that there will be the throat chakra also activates in the coming year, as we were very well aware of the heart chakra being very wide open and active this year. And if it was too closed shut, you would have struggled with the changes that were going on around you. You would have struggled with the huge emotional impact that we felt this year. Next year, it's more like a breaking free, and it's almost rebellious, impulsive, and very outspoken, because out of the frustrations and out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth will speak. So we'll find a lot of people publicly and in communities being outspoken about what is going on in their lives and what they object to. So that whole element of personal freedom is going to be a very big subject of what we will and won't tolerate, what the individual is prepared to do and is not prepared to do. It is quite a rebellious and impulsive number. It can be intrepid, and it can also be quite well disciplined on the foundation that the 4 has laid. Yeah. It's kind of ironic, and hopefully the discipline that has been enforced on us in 2020 can be a good foundation for a much more stable 5. And that in terms of even that recession question, it can be quite a positive for us to realize that we must be cautious and not spendthrift with our resources and with our funds. It can have a good impact that we've been through such a restricted year with realities being shown to us every day.
Okay. Now I've got another question for you. I'm just going to see if there are any questions coming from the audience. And if you've got any questions, feel free to post them into the chat box or into the Q&A tab. Kim, you mentioned earlier something to do with the year 2012 and how the year 2012 is somehow reflected in what we're going through at the moment. Can you tell us a bit about that?
So when I looked at the numbers of 2021, I just thought, well, the best way to analyze is to go and look at the patterns of the past. Now, obviously, 2012 had books published about what was happening in 2012. So the numbers are similar, but now we have one of the energies reversed. But the real signature of 2012, especially the date, the 21st of the 12th, 2012, it was a kind of gateway into a new era. What the Mayan civilization also suggested, it was at the point where we intersected with the point of chaos. And from my analysis, it has seemed almost as if we've been traveling through this chaos all the way from that point in time where the energy shifted. And that chaos has been somewhat realized by some, and then others have just traveled through it quite normally and kept up with the pace. But at the end of the day, the 2012 for me was just a representation of the previous 9-year cycle. Now, in numerology, we see that everything has a 9-year cycle because of the numbers 1 to 9 and how they roll over. But the interesting thing about the global year 5s is they're almost in the middle, but they also represent change. So they become a beginning and end that's wrapped up in the middle. It's quite an unusual energy and can feel rather disruptive. Many things changing all at the same time to gear into 6th gear, which is the year that follows, the year of responsibility and reshaping and form. So that was kind of the association between the 2 years, which are similar.
Yeah. A lot of people are talking about the date, the 21st of the 12th, 2020. Is there anything significant about that date? Because
it's a beautiful date. I actually analyzed the date because on my Facebook page, I do almost every day, I do a post of the energy of the day. And that particular day is the number, if I use all the full expression of the numbers, it's a 7310. So it hasn't got the same 11 energy as the 21st of the 12th, 2021. And the 21st of the 12th, 2012 also has an 11 energy. And those two 9 years away from each other have an 11-year gateway image. Whereas in 2020, it's not quite there yet. It's the number 10, which is the number 1, which is the start. It's almost the beginning number. Yeah. So if every single day that rolls over has then the following number at play. So 73 will be a 10, and then 74 will be 11, which is a 2. So we keep on having repeats of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then bringing the energy back round. So 73 is a powerful number on that date. Yeah. It holds a lot of knowledge, a lot of the energy of spirit, communication, and leadership. And I think that we will see a whole shift in how we think and how we make decisions. The intellect is going to be guided a lot more consciously as we move into 2021. We have so much information that is now available to us.
Yeah, yeah. Are there any significant numbers that relate specifically to South Africa?
Yes. The karmic number 13 is South Africa's karma. There's no other word for it. And the beauty about it is it's preceded by the numbers 4 and 9. Interestingly enough, when I analyze the numbers for COVID-19, there are strongly 4s and 9s. The vibrational frequency of COVID, therefore, has a greater impact on a country with the energies of the 4s and the 9s.
Okay, so to just go back a step, how do we get the 4 and the 9 and the number 13 for South Africa?
Okay, so you basically script South Africa and you give it its numbers and you add up all those numbers. Okay. That number adds up to 49. And then you add the 4 to the 9, and that gives you 13.
Okay.
Numerologists will know that 13 is the karmic number of death and rebirth. It's, I I consider 13 the tireless worker, the tenacious worker, one who works without complaining and manages to manifest the next step. And we just keep doing it. As South Africa, I marvel at South Africans. They never say die. They get up from the battles and they carry on the next day. That's the number 13. And it's a karmic number. We've got a lot of karmic energy here, and we just keep on manifesting the next thing, and we keep on creating and manifesting, and it's how we vibe. But that is how you get the energy of 13 from the name South Africa. And we are being pretty hard hit, especially again at the moment, by the virus and all of its energies and the way it moves. And
Okay. So does that South Africa's number 13 have any specific relationship to the year 2021?
In August next year, the vibration of 13 meets up with the same vibration of the 13 of South Africa. And I think globally, it's more of an impact globally. I think it will be a very difficult month next year. There could be quite a lot of disruption, and it's not so much a number of endings, but a lot of conclusions to certain things that have proceeded in the year 2021. Between even the months of May to September, there's great upheavals, and hopefully we'll see a lot more consistency with this element of travel and movement, because the 5 in 2021 represents travel and movement and shifting and changing and getting back on with things and grabbing our freedom back. But it is all going to be wrapped up in this great big parcel of the virus and the vaccine, which unfortunately we can't ignore this. This is now a part of our lives. It's a method of perhaps controlling the movement of people. Whatever the source is no longer matters. What matters is how we're going to navigate through this in terms of cooperation. And I see August next year as being a big interception of the number 13 globally. And I'm not quite sure yet what it means for South Africa, but when you have those mirror images of the numbers, there could be a great, it means a work and a perhaps recession challenge in that month. So the whole of next year, the advice is for people to hold on to their budgets and hold on to their savings, because we really cannot know what's coming. It's expect the unexpected and put your seatbelts on.
Okay. You mentioned something interesting earlier. You spoke about analyzing the numbers of COVID-19.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that.
So it was a little project that I was given or tasked with by a small group of ladies who just love the numerology. And I was like, oh my word, okay, do I have to? Because I'd like to ignore the virus. I'd like to sort of pretend it's not there and live in fairyland. You know, can't we just all get on with it and take our vitamin D and be healthy and we'll just be fine, you know? So I did the numbers, and it's quite interesting because in my biofeedback work, I've been scanning coronavirus for many years. It's a simple cold. It's the average cold. People have had it. They get better. They just work through it. And the coronavirus has an interesting number of 5611. 56 represents the number of, it's out of control. It's a common cold. It quickly moves and changes and grasps, takes hold of the body, and then will run its course and then be done with. And one has to just keep it under control. And then the numbers of COVID-19 there's two analyses, because I analyzed the SARS-CoV-2 virus and analyzed the COVID-19 itself. And both of those energies are the 4 and the 9. The interesting thing about the 4 and the way that the virus operates is it works on the ACE receptor, which is basically those that have the weakened heart. So it's the heart chakra, again, in the personal year 4, global year 4, which is 2020, which is the 4. So the introduction or the emergence of the virus in a global year 4 made perfect sense in terms of the signature that it then left in our space and time, which is COVID-19. And the 9 came from, coming from the COVID-19 analysis, also represents the virus that affects humanity. So 9 is the number of humanity. And the two kind of make sense that it's going to affect humanity for life. It's going to affect humanity in various different ways. And those who are weaker, those who are in low frequency, will really struggle with it. The call is to work on the adrenal glands in 2021, We've worked on the foundational teachings of vitamin C, zinc, D3 5000s at least every day, your omega-3s and melatonin to protect the pineal gland and to protect the body from inflammation. I think if you are suffering with inflammation in this period of time, it is an expression of not coping in the tunnel of chaos that we've been in since 2012.
Yeah.
Inflammation is a growing problem, as are the gut-brain issues with most people who are unconscious and not aware. The lesson for light workers is to please carry on teaching people and helping where you can, because ultimately the energy taking us forward that has been with us since 2012 has been the energy of love and light. They're both the same kind of energies wrapped up in a number 9 and a number 11. They just vibrate in different ways, but they're one and the same and are used together. And they will amplify the improvement of people struggling with viruses in the lower frequencies.
Okay.
Yeah.
So last question before we move on. One question from the audience. Is there a different number for the Republic of South Africa?
There could be. I'd have to spend time analyzing it.
Yeah.
And I'd be happy to put that back to you, or just put it onto my Facebook page if someone wants to link onto there. When we look at countries, we look at what their regular stamp is. So we can analyze any country from the point of the United States of America versus USA. I would still analyze the United States of America because of what USA represents. But with South Africa, we generally only use South Africa as the signature or the birth certificate name. Yeah.
Okay. So my final question, you spoke about this tunnel of chaos since 2012. And for me personally, it's felt like a tunnel of chaos. When does the tunnel of chaos end?
Well, I don't think what one of us specifically really knows.
Yeah.
I like to think that having analyzed a global year 5 now, quite intricately with 2012 and having read quite a lot about that, and I reread some of the Matthew letters that I read in 2012, and I was like, wow, it's amazing what has come of this. 2021 is another 5, and of course 2030 will be the next 9-year cycle of a 5. And they each hold different expressions. 2012 was in fact a 32-5. 2021 is a 41-5. It's hard work. We're in the middle of hard work towards change. But 2030 is a 23-5. And it's not a 23-5, sorry. It's a beautiful 50-5-0-5. It's almost like a completion of a cycle where there's much more highly evolved freedom compared with the 41-5 that is hard work towards freedom. So I'm going to put myself out there and say, I look forward to 2030.
Well, thank you very much, Kim. It's really been enlightening having this conversation and to find out all about how the numbers are affecting our lives and the years that we're living through. So Kim Tempest, thank you very much. If anybody wants to get hold of Kim, her website is kimmerology.co.za.
That's right.
And I know she's got a fantastic report on the year 2021 that you guys can find on her website and on your Facebook page.
Yes, that's
so
correct.
Take a look at Kim's website and Facebook page and you'll find that report. So Kim, thank you very much for being here.
Thanks very much, Mark, for having me.